For more than 6 centuries, the Ottoman Empire was one of the most influential powers in the world, controlling vast territories that spanned 3 continents, including the Middle East, North Africa, and Southeast Europe. Its capital, Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, was the heart of an empire that dominated trade, politics, and culture in the region, connecting East and West like no other before it. This role as a global center granted Turkey a strategic position that endures to this day, reflected in its ability to influence global dynamics even as a modern republic. Under Erdogan's leadership, Turkey often invokes elements of this Ottoman legacy to shape its foreign policy. Its actions in the Middle East, its claim to influence in the Eastern Mediterranean, and its pursuit of leadership in the Muslim world echo a time when the Sultan was both a political and spiritual leader. At the same time, this attempt to reclaim a prominent global role poses challenges to internal and external balance, putting Turkey on a collision course with old allies and creating new regional tensions. This contrast becomes even more apparent when we examine Turkey's role within NATO, which it joined much later, in 1952. At that time, the geopolitical landscape was defined by the Cold War, and the priority was to position itself as a barrier against Soviet expansion, aligning with Western powers. With its unique geographical position, bridging Europe and the Middle East and controlling access to the Black Sea, Turkey became an essential piece on the Western security chessboard. However, over the decades, Ankara's interests have increasingly diverged from those of its allies. One of the most evident points of contention emerged in recent years when Turkey purchased S-400 air defense systems from Russia. This move triggered a crisis within the alliance, as the systems are incompatible with NATO platforms and raise concerns about potential Russian espionage. In response, the United States excluded Turkey from the F-35 fighter jet program, marking one of the most tense moments between the two nations. Additionally, Turkey's foreign policy has challenged NATO's cohesion. While the alliance promotes a unified stance on regional conflicts, Turkey frequently acts independently. Examples include its approach in Syria, the Eastern Mediterranean, and other scenarios where national interests outweigh collective consensus. These actions fuel debates about the extent to which Turkey remains committed to the alliance's founding principles. Tensions within NATO involving Turkey are not limited to political disagreements with powers like the United States. They also stem from historical and regional rivalries with another key member of the alliance, Greece. This complicated relationship is fueled by territorial disputes that have persisted for decades, with the Aegean Sea serving as the main diplomatic battleground. The Aegean Sea lies between Greece and Turkey, forming an extension of the Mediterranean that connects the region to the Black Sea via the Turkish Straits. Dotted with islands, many under Greek control, it is a strategically vital area both geographically and economically. In addition to being a major maritime route for trade and energy transport, the Aegean has gained further significance in recent decades due to the potential for natural gas exploration in its waters. In the Aegean, Greece and Turkey disagree over the extent of their territorial waters, airspace, and even the sovereignty of small islands. These disputes have direct implications for the control of natural resources, including the recently discovered gas reserves in the region. With each provocation, be it military exercises or Turkish exploration in areas claimed by Greece, the risk of escalation grows, exposing the alliance's vulnerabilities. However, these tensions are not confined to the sea. Cyprus, a small island in the Mediterranean, represents one of the region's most significant geopolitical disputes. Since 1974, following Turkey's military intervention, the island has remained divided between the south, inhabited predominantly by Greek Cypriots, and the north, controlled by the self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, recognized only by Ankara, Turkey's capital. For Greece and the European Union, Turkey's presence in northern Cyprus is viewed as an occupation. For Turkey, it is a guarantee of protection for Turkish Cypriots. Amid this dispute, Greece has sought to strengthen its alliances. In 2021, it signed a mutual defense pact with France, sending a direct message to Turkey. In the event of conflict, Athens would have additional military support. This measure reflects not only Greece's pursuit of security but also NATO's difficulties in addressing internal disputes among its members. Furthermore, in 2019, Ankara surprised the international community by signing a controversial maritime agreement with the Libyan government, redefining maritime boundaries between the two countries. The pact ignored the claims of Greece and Cyprus and drew boundaries that cut through exclusive economic zones traditionally recognized as Greek, particularly south of the island of Crete. The significance of this move is directly tied to the discovery of substantial natural gas reserves over the last decade. Exploiting these energy resources has the potential to transform the Eastern Mediterranean into one of the world's largest gas export hubs, boosting its economic and strategic importance. By signing the agreement, Turkey aimed to strengthen its own claims to these resources and secure its position as a key regional player. However, the move heightened tensions with Athens, which deemed the agreement illegal and sought support from the European Union and regional partners. The controversy also highlighted NATO's struggle to manage disputes among its own members, given that both Greece and Turkey are part of the alliance. Meanwhile, Ankara has maintained its firm stance, dispatching ships for gas exploration in contested waters and directly challenging international sanctions and pressures. Another crucial aspect is Turkey's foreign policy regarding Russia and Ukraine, which has demonstrated a posture of active neutrality, a strategy that blends pragmatic cooperation with strategic competition. Despite historical tensions with Moscow, Ankara maintains significant economic ties with Russia, particularly in sectors like energy and tourism. Joint projects such as the Turk Stream pipeline, which transports Russian gas to Europe via Turkey, reinforce the interdependence between the two nations. On the other hand, Turkey also acts as a key indirect ally of Ukraine. Since the beginning of the conflict with Russia in 2014, Ankara has supplied Bayraktar TB2 combat drones to Kyiv, which have become critical tools in Ukraine's resistance. Additionally, Turkey closed the Bosphorus Strait to Russian warships during the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, basing its decision on the Montreux Convention, which regulates access to the Black Sea. This move was interpreted as a gesture of balance, supporting Ukraine without fully severing ties with Russia. This ambivalence reflects the challenges Turkey faces as it navigates between two opposing forces. While seeking to maintain good relations with Russia, Ankara must also consider its position within NATO, where Russia is regarded as a serious threat. This dual approach allows Turkey to preserve its diplomatic autonomy but also places it under constant pressure from both Western allies and Russia. While Turkey balances divergent interests in its relationships with Russia and Ukraine, its foreign policy in the Middle East follows a more straightforward logic, ensuring national security and expanding regional influence. This approach has been demonstrated through frequent military interventions, particularly in Syria and Iraq, where Ankara seeks to neutralize perceived threats to its internal stability and geopolitical position. The war in Syria has highlighted one of Turkey's main strategic priorities: weakening Kurdish forces, especially the YPG, People's Protection Units, which Ankara views as an extension of the PKK, Kurdistan Workers' Party, a group labeled as terrorist by the Turkish government. To achieve this goal, Turkey has launched several military operations, such as Operation Euphrates Shield in 2016 and Operation Peace Spring in 2019, occupying parts of Syrian territory near the Turkish border. Beyond Syria, Turkey's influence extends to Iraq, where its forces carry out incursions to target PKK bases in mountainous areas in the country's north. These operations are justified under the pretext of self-preservation but often draw international criticism and strain relations with local governments. Turkey's involvement goes beyond its own security concerns. Ankara provides military support to strategic allies, such as Azerbaijan in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, cementing its position as an active military player in the regional arena. This aggressive posture reflects Ankara's belief that projecting power is essential to achieving its regional and global objectives, even if it means openly challenging international norms. Turkey's military incursions in the Middle East are rooted in a deeply entrenched issue: the conflict with the Kurdish minority, which represents both an internal concern and a perceived regional threat. The Kurds are an ethnic group primarily inhabiting Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and Syria, with a population estimated at 30 to 40 million people. Despite their numbers, they lack a state of their own, fueling tensions in several countries, including Turkey. At the center of this conflict is the PKK, an organization designated as terrorist by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union. Since the 1980s, the PKK has waged an armed insurgency against the Turkish government, with demands ranging from greater autonomy to full independence. The clashes have resulted in tens of thousands of deaths and the mass displacement of civilians. This issue is not confined to Turkish borders. Kurdish autonomy in northern Iraq and Syria, such as the Rojava region, has heightened Ankara's concerns. For Turkey, these territories controlled by Kurdish forces, like the YPG in Syria, function as extensions of the PKK and pose a direct threat to its territorial integrity. This perception has driven Ankara to carry out constant airstrikes and ground incursions into neighboring territories under the pretext of neutralizing terror corridors. Turkey's approach has faced international criticism. While some governments acknowledge Turkey's security concerns, many also view the Kurds as strategic allies, particularly in the fight against ISIS. This dynamic creates friction between Ankara and its NATO partners, as well as with regional powers. Turkey's stance in the Middle East and its tensions with the Kurds are closely tied to its role as a critical energy and geopolitical corridor. Situated in one of the world's most strategic regions, Turkey controls key routes for the transport of oil and natural gas, serving as a bridge between the vast reserves of Central Asia and the Middle East and the markets of Europe. Projects like the Bakuta-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline and the Trans-Anatolian gas pipeline, TANAP, reinforce this position, enabling Turkey to influence global energy flows and strengthen its strategic relevance. Additionally, Ankara controls the Bosporus Strait and the Dardanelles, vital choke points for ships transporting oil and goods between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Recently, the discovery of natural gas reserves in the Black Sea has opened new prospects for Turkey's energy independence. In 2020, the government announced the largest gas discovery in its history in the Sakarya field, with an estimated potential of hundreds of billions of cubic meters. This discovery could reduce Turkey's reliance on imports, particularly from Russia, and provide greater political flexibility on the international stage. In addition to its role in energy, Turkey also leverages its strategic location to consolidate political influence. Its proximity to conflict zones, such as the Caucasus and the Eastern Mediterranean, allows Ankara to act as a mediator, or as a directly involved actor. This positioning reinforces its narrative of being an independent regional power, distancing itself from both Russia and the West when necessary. Turkey's growing energy and strategic influence is not only a result of its privileged geographic location, but also of an ambitious political vision led by Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Under his leadership, the country has pursued a foreign policy that seeks to revive elements of its Ottoman past, projecting Turkey as an independent power with significant influence in the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Muslim world. This approach, often referred to as Neo-Ottomanism, goes beyond historical nostalgia. It reflects a clear strategy to expand Turkey's cultural, economic, and political influence in former Ottoman territories. This includes an active presence in countries like Libya, Syria, and Qatar, as well as initiatives to mediate regional conflicts and support groups aligned with its interests. Domestically, Turkish nationalism reinforces this vision, uniting the population around the idea of a strong and self-reliant Turkey. This narrative is used to justify both its aggressive foreign policy and its economic and military initiatives, such as strengthening its defense industry. Erdogan often portrays Turkey as surrounded by enemies, a rhetoric that helps consolidate domestic support for its regional actions. However, this stance comes at a cost. Turkey's increasing departure from Western values, combined with its unilateral actions, has caused friction with NATO allies and the European Union. These tensions are particularly evident in issues such as human rights, press freedom, and Erdogan's authoritarian approach to domestic politics. These divergences fuel the debate over whether Turkey remains committed to the West or is charting an entirely independent path. Throughout this video, we have explored how Turkey, a country with a central role in NATO, is also a deeply complex geopolitical player, balancing regional and global interests while challenging both allies and rivals. Whether in its tensions with Greece and Cyprus, energy agreements in the Mediterranean, ambiguous relations with Russia and Ukraine, or its historic struggle with the Kurdish issue, Turkey demonstrates its ability to position itself as an independent and strategic power. What makes Turkey so fascinating is not just its present, it's also its past. For centuries, Turkish territory was the heart of empires that shaped the world. From Byzantium to the grandeur of the Ottoman Empire, and finally to the modern Turkish Republic led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, this region has been a central axis for civilizations, cultures, and global conflicts. Today, under Erdogan's leadership, Turkey seems to be revisiting this historical role, seeking an influence that harkens back to the days when Istanbul, or Constantinople, was the center of the world. At the same time, this ambition creates challenges that place the country in an ambiguous position. At times an essential ally, at others a force that disrupts global balance. And that's the big question. Will Turkey be able to reclaim its global prominence without breaking away from the historical allies that have shaped its present? Or are we witnessing the emergence of a new chapter, where Ankara rejects the constraints of the past and establishes itself as an autonomous and unpredictable power? Turkey's future is in motion, as its history has always been. And what happens in the heart of this country, which was once the center of the world, will continue to resonate for decades on the global stage.